So let's get it on. If you're wondering why there's zip ties around there, it makes them far easier to get them into the tyres, because they seem to, if you get it into one part of the tyre, it pops out of the other. They're quite stiff. If you've never seen them before or never used them before, they're quite stiff. So I've taken the batteries out, so battery off the back. So I can now flip the bike over, because that's the next stage of this, flipping it over. So the first bit of advice I'm going to give you is photograph everything. Make sure it all goes back the same way. Now I've got a skewer that goes through my front wheel, but you'll have a nut and a washer. Make sure you photograph which way around that nut or washer goes. You might have a skewer. Might not be the same bike as I'm using right now. It might be an Engwe. It's definitely a through bolt. It's a through axle. So make sure, especially the rear wheel, because on mine it is a through axle, it's a screwed axle. Yeah, you'll see me taking photographs of it. So make sure you do. The first thing I need to do is we need to get this tyre and this inner tube off. So if you've got a Schrader valve remover, what's the point? You've got a Schrader valve remover that fits. So undo this with your Schrader valve remover, or just decompress it by pressing the valve in. But you'll hear that now, just breaking down. So I can break away that from that. Now you can see all the airs out of it. So I'm going to remove this tyre. A rule of thumb, make sure the way this tread pattern's following, which is that way, is married up to that. So you just lift that on after, and you know you've got your tyre tread the right way round. Next thing, use your tyre levers to pop the tyre off. We'll get this tyre off, and then we're going to look at what we're doing next. It should actually, it might just pull off. No, that's a bit tight. Right, to make things a little bit easier, just pull out your inner tube, because that just pulls in the way, and then hopefully, yeah, it's a bit tight. Having removed your tyre, next bit is getting the new tyre on in the right direction. Like I said, we place that up there so we can see the follow of the tread that we had before. So if it goes on that way, we know the tread's correct. But one of my favourite bits of kit, nail clippers. Stops you every time from ripping through any wiring. So now we need to get this on. So the first bit that goes on is obviously the tyre, and then we're stretching this over. So I'm gonna get on and do that and get the first part of the tyre on. We're now on to, we've got the first side in, the tyre's flipped over, and now we need to get the inner tube in here. I'm not going to let you watch me struggling with it. You'll just have to take my word for it, it went in. The next thing you need to make sure you've done is you need to make sure that you've beaded the tyre before you even think about pumping it up. So I've checked this and the tyre is beaded all the way round, both sides. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pump it up in 4 psi increments, checking that the beads sat in all the way round both sides before I put it back on the bike. Before you get going, putting your air in, don't forget to put your Schrader valve back in, and then however you're going to pump it up, I'm doing it the easy way. So let's start with 4, let's go 5 psi. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to make sure that everything's stuck in place, giving it a roll while I'm doing it, making sure that that bead fits. Does that make sense? So there we are at 5 psi. I'm going to throw another 4 in. So bump that up to 9. Hit the button. And everything right. So now we tighten everything back up. So that's tight. Don't over tighten anything. You'll regret it. Because once you've over tightened something, you can't under tighten it, if that makes sense. There we go. I spent 20 minutes yesterday realigning these spokes. But I'll tell you what, don't they look good? I'm really pleased with them. A bit expensive, but well worth every penny, I think. You know, it just sets the bike off. Something different. That's what modding's all about. Right, fun time. Get that off. They're quite handy, these things, just to make sure that you can cut without cutting through cable. Right, these are quite handy when you just want to cut these off. And a bit of a snip, and that one's off. If you wonder why my breathing's bad, I've got a terrible sinus infection. Right, so you unscrew that. Depending on what bike you've got, you may have an unscrew like this to do, or you may just have a pull apart cable. Just be careful. So let's get this off. All right, so as before, like I said, we need to photograph everything to make sure we put everything back correctly. So you can see there's a shape washer to the inside, a normal washer and a nut to the outside on there. So let's photograph that. And it sits the same to the other side. So down there, I'll grab a photograph of it, and then we can get on with taking the nuts completely off. It saves any hassle. So down here, this one seems to have a torque arm fitted. You can see it there, look. So I need to get that off as well. So as you can see, it's a shaped through screw. So if it's stuck, just give it a bit of a wiggle with that, and that will loosen it out, and then you can pull it out. Right, now we're ready to pull it out. So hopefully, with a bit of a wiggle, this will come out, and there it goes, and out it comes. So you pull it out through the thing, and there you go, out. I'm gonna say this as easy as I can and as clear as I can. Always have that wire pointing to the top. You can put it over a bucket, do what you want, but always try and have that pointing to the top, because wires break down. So you've got to be very careful with these. Not overly careful, but twisting around and wiggling around will cause them to break down. Next thing you know, you've got an oil sensor issue or a broken wire and your motor's not working. So, say this again. Always make sure there's cables to the top. Try not to wiggle it around too much, and you'll be fine. You just have to have the confidence to do it. So I'm going to break this one apart now, and I'm going to do the same thing, repeat. So again, I follow where the tyre's going on here, which direction it's going, which is that. So I know that's following that tread. That can go there. That can go there. And I know when I place that tyre back this way, it's the right way around. So I have to lift it on, and ba-dum, and I'm done. All right. Let's get that one on, and then I'll show you how to get the wheel back on. Well, I'm going to say this again, just for the cheap seats at the back. Make sure you don't wiggle that cable around. So I'm just going to get this on now without all the swearing that you'll hear. Get it pumped up, and I'll show you how to get it back onto the bike safely. Alright, so this needs to go back in there. So, we lift this up. We lift this up. We know that goes in there like so. Right, before we do anything else, we want to make sure we don't grab that. Like so. So, right, make sure your cable's not in the way of anything. And then, there we go. Right, if it's not sitting in properly, let's give it a wiggle till it does. You see it just went in? That's because it's a shaped thread. So that's in there. It's gone in with the brake as well, so everything's fine. So let's get all this bolted back up. Let's go try these tyres out, see if they're much quieter, which so far they seem to be. Got my dead cat on, so I don't know what the wind noise is like, but you know, first day of summer, or first day of meteorological summer, you know, I wasn't expecting much. 14 to 15 degrees today. Meant to be 18 when I looked at the BBC weather this week. Oh well, it is what it is. Right, let's go give these a check out. Start off on a familiar spot. These tyres are really quiet. I'll try and get into a nice soft spot in town where there's no wind noise, but there's no noise from these tyres whatsoever, which, given the cost, they are basically V-tyre speedsters. So you probably know I've run these before and under the bike, but I wanted something that looked a little bit different. And these, you'll see in a bit, they look a lot different. No noise, apart from the wind that you're probably picking up. But the one thing that they do tend to have is less rolling resistance. Less rolling resistance equals more range. As if you followed my channel enough, you work this out for yourself. I'm trying to find a good mix between power and range. So we're going to have a mooch up here, so there's no wind noise up here, but if you listen, in fact, that's the tyre noise. I've got the mic right down by the tyre. There's no tyre noise whatsoever, no bzzz, no swarm of wasps, no hovering bees. They're just really quiet, and if they're quiet, and they're not you making any energy by making noise, they're not giving you any rolling resistance, which, as we all know, equals more range. I really need to sort these brake pads out because they're due, and it's 331 miles on this bike. I think a lot of it's down to the weight I've been carrying on it because of the extra battery and everything and the extra kit. It's using extra brake pad, but we can sort that out. It's not an issue. far so good. Got these running at 19 psi rather than 20 because it seemed a bit stiff, obviously, with the Tannus Armour in. So I've dropped the air pressure down slightly. I might drop it down a bit more actually, but works perfectly so far. Plenty of grip. Plenty of grip.
I tried so hard and got so far.